From the outside, our life seemed idyllic. Emma and I lived in a spacious townhouse in the heart of London, surrounded by a world of luxury and comfort. I was the successful businessman, and she, the quintessential housewife, appeared to enjoy the fruits of my labor. But beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect marriage, cracks were beginning to form. Emma and I met at a charity gala 5 years ago. She was the radiant beauty that lit up the room, and I was immediately captivated by her charm. Our whirlwind romance led to a quick marriage, and soon she was ensconced in our beautiful home, playing the role of the devoted wife. But Emma was never content with simply being the lady of the house. Her restless spirit always sought excitement and thrill. I first noticed the change a few months ago. Emma became distant, often lost in her thoughts, and her usual enthusiasm for our social engagements waned. She began spending more time out of the house, claiming she was exploring new hobbies or catching up with old friends. I tried to dismiss my suspicions, attributing her behavior to the natural ebb and flow of any long-term relationship. It was during one of those solitary evenings that I came across the first letter. It was a cold, rainy night, and I had just returned from a grueling day at the office. The house was eerily quiet, and Emma was nowhere to be found. As I ascended the stairs, I noticed an envelope tucked beneath the stack of bills on the console table. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and my curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single sheet of paper, its contents chillingly brief. I know about Emma. Keep her close, or you might lose her forever. My heart raced. What did this mean? Who could have sent it? The implications were terrifying, and yet I couldn't confront Emma without concrete evidence. Instead, I decided to keep a closer eye on her, hoping to uncover the truth on my own. Days turned into weeks, and my vigilance paid off. Emma's absences grew more frequent, and she became increasingly secretive about her whereabouts. I began to follow her discreetly, trailing her through the bustling streets of London. It wasn't long before I discovered her destination, a small art studio tucked away in a quiet alley. Through the window, I saw her with a young man, his paint-splattered clothes and easel revealing him to be an artist. His name, I later learned, was Alex. He was a struggling painter, his works filled with passion and raw emotion. Emma seemed entranced by him, and it was clear that their relationship went far beyond the bounds of mere friendship. I watched from the shadows, my heart heavy with betrayal. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to confront her, to shatter the illusion of our perfect life. One evening, Emma returned home with a strained expression, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She barely acknowledged me as she headed straight to the bedroom, locking the door behind her. My mind raced with possibilities, each more sinister than the last. Desperate for answers, I picked the lock and slipped inside, finding her clutching another letter, her hands trembling. Before I could ask, she crumpled it and shoved it into her purse. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of fear in her gaze. But just as quickly it was gone, replaced by her usual mask of indifference. "It's nothing, John," she said dismissively. "Just some nonsense from an old friend." But I knew better. Emma was hiding something, and I was determined to uncover the truth. My suspicions were confirmed the next day when I received another letter, identical to the first. The message was clear: she's in danger. Protect her, or she'll be lost to you forever. I couldn't ignore the threat any longer. Emma was entangled in something far more dangerous than an illicit affair, and it was up to me to protect her. I hired a security team to keep a discreet watch over our home, hoping to uncover the source of these ominous messages. As the days passed, my frustration grew. Emma continued to see Alex, and the letters kept coming, each one more threatening than the last. The strain was taking its toll on our marriage, and I could feel the distance between us widening. Yet Emma remained oblivious to my growing unease, lost in her own world of deceit and intrigue. Then, one fateful evening, everything changed. Emma had gone out, claiming she was meeting a friend for dinner. I followed her, as I had done many times before, but this time she led me to an unfamiliar part of the city. She entered a dimly lit cafe, and I watched from across the street as she took a seat in the corner, her eyes scanning the room nervously. Minutes later, Alex arrived, and they began to talk in hushed tones. I strained to hear their conversation, but the distance made it impossible. Frustrated, I decided to move closer, slipping into the cafe and taking a seat near the back. As I listened, I heard snippets of their conversation, enough to piece together a chilling story. Alex was in trouble. His past, it seemed, was catching up with him, and Emma was caught in the crossfire. He confessed to her about his former life, a world of crime and deceit that he had tried to escape. The letters, he revealed, were from his old partners, now seeking revenge and using Emma as a pawn in their twisted game. My heart pounded as I processed the revelation. Emma was in danger, and my own inaction had only made things worse. I had to act, and quickly, to protect her from the dark forces closing in around us. But as I left the cafe, my mind racing with plans and strategies, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than Alex had revealed. Emma's lies and secrets were like a web, and I was caught in its tangled threads, unsure of who to trust and where to turn. In the coming days, my world would be turned upside down as I delved deeper into the mystery surrounding Emma and Alex. The truth, when it finally came to light, would shatter the fragile illusion of our perfect life and force me to confront the harsh realities of love, betrayal, and survival. But for now, all I could do was prepare for the storm that was about to break and hope that I could protect the woman I loved from the darkness that threatened to consume us both. The cafe revelation was just the beginning. As the days passed, my obsession with uncovering the truth about Emma and Alex grew. I became a man possessed, my thoughts consumed by the need to protect my wife and salvage whatever was left of our marriage. Yet the more I delved into the shadows of her life, the more elusive the truth became. Emma continued her charade, maintaining the facade of the dutiful housewife while secretly meeting Alex at every opportunity. My surveillance team reported their movements, but their findings only deepened the mystery. Alex's art studio was a front, a sanctuary for a man haunted by his past. The letters, which once seemed like the ramblings of a jealous lover, now appeared to be pieces of a larger, more sinister puzzle. One evening, as I was reviewing the latest reports from my security team, Emma burst into the room, her face pale and drawn. She held another letter, her hands trembling. "John, we need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I took the letter from her and read its contents. It was another threat, more explicit this time: leave Alex, or face the consequences. "This is your final warning. Who sent this?" I demanded, my anger barely contained. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know, John. I don't know what to do. I'm scared for the first time." I saw genuine fear in her eyes. My anger softened, replaced by a determination to protect her at all costs. "We'll get through this," I assured her. "I'll find out who's behind these threats and put an end to it." Emma nodded, her relief palpable. For a brief moment it felt like we were united against a common enemy, but the shadow of her deceit loomed over us, a constant reminder of the lies she had woven. As I delved deeper into Alex's past, I uncovered a trail of betrayal and crime that stretched back years. He had been involved in a series of art thefts, using his talent as a painter to forge masterpieces and sell them on the black market. His former partners, now enemies, were ruthless and vengeful, determined to settle old scores. One night, as Emma slept fitfully beside me, I received a call from one of my security team members. "Sir, we have a situation," he said, his voice tense. "We've spotted someone loitering near your residence. They matched the description of one of Alex's former associates." I sprang out of bed, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Keep an eye on them," I ordered. "I'll be right there." Quietly, I slipped out of the house, leaving Emma unaware of my departure. As I approached the surveillance team's van parked discreetly down the street, I felt a growing sense of unease. The man they had identified was indeed one of Alex's old partners, a dangerous figure known for his violent tendencies. I watched as he lingered near our home, his eyes scanning the surroundings. He seemed to be waiting for something or someone. My security team moved in, ready to apprehend him, but just as they were about to act, he vanished into the night, leaving behind a sense of foreboding that chilled me to the bone. The next day, I decided to confront Alex directly. I tracked him down to his studio and stormed inside, finding him amidst his canvases and paint. He looked up, startled by my sudden appearance. "We need to talk," I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. Alex set down his brush and faced me. "What do you want, John?" "I want the truth," I demanded. "No more lies, no more secrets. Who are these people, and why are they targeting Emma?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated. My past is catching up with me, and Emma got caught in the crossfire. These people. They don't forgive or forget. They're dangerous. Then why involve her?" I asked, my frustration mounting. "Why put her in harm's way?" Alex's eyes softened with guilt. "I never meant for this to happen. I care about Emma, but I can't control these people. They're relentless." I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. "We need a plan. Emma can't continue living in fear. We have to end this." Alex nodded, a determined look in his eyes. "I agree. But it won't be easy. These people don't play by the rules." As we discussed our next steps, I couldn't shake the feeling that Emma was hiding more than she was letting on. Her lies had already driven a wedge between us, and now our lives were in danger because of her choices. The line between love and betrayal blurred, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about the woman I married. Returning home, I found Emma waiting for me, her face a mask of anxiety. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice tinged with accusation. "I was meeting with Alex," I replied, unwilling to hide the truth any longer. "We need to figure out how to deal with these threats." Emma's eyes widened with a mixture of fear and relief. "Did he tell you anything?" "Yes," I said, my voice heavy with the weight of our predicament. "But we need to be careful. These people are dangerous, and they won't stop until they get what they want." Emma nodded, her fear evident. "What do we do now?" "We fight back," I said firmly. "Together. We'll confront these people and put an end to this once and for all." As we plotted our next move, a sense of unease settled over me. The truth about Emma and Alex was still shrouded in mystery, and the threats against us loomed larger than ever. But one thing was clear: we were in this together, for better or worse, until the bitter end. In the days following my confrontation with Alex, a heavy tension settled over our household. Emma and I were no longer merely husband and wife. We had become conspirators in a dangerous game. Each night we would sit together in hushed conversations, piecing together the fragments of information we had and trying to anticipate the next move of our unseen adversaries. Emma's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She would jump at the slightest noise, her nerves clearly frayed. I did my best to reassure her, but I knew that the foundation of our marriage had been irrevocably shaken. Trust, once lost, is difficult to regain, and every interaction between us was tinged with suspicion and doubt. One evening, as we sat in the dim light of our living room, Emma finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed to the full extent of her relationship with Alex. Their affair had begun innocently enough, but as their bond deepened, so did the complexity of their entanglement. She had been drawn to his world of art and passion, a stark contrast to the staid routine of our marriage. But there was more. Emma revealed that she had been aware of Alex's criminal past from the beginning. She had lied to protect him, believing that his love for her was genuine and that they could build a new life together. Her deception cut deep, but it also gave me a clearer picture of the danger we were facing. Despite my anger and hurt, I knew that we had to focus on the immediate threat. We decided to confront Alex's former partners directly, hoping to negotiate a way out of this mess. It was a risky plan, but the only one that offered a glimmer of hope. Our first step was to lure them out of the shadows. We sent a message through a contact of Alex's, arranging a meeting in a secluded location. The response was swift: a terse agreement to meet, with a warning not to involve the authorities. It was a trap, of course, but we had no choice but to walk into it. The night of the meeting arrived, and my anxiety was at an all-time high. I armed myself with a concealed weapon, ready for whatever might happen. Emma, too, steeled herself for the confrontation, her face a mask of determination. As we approached the meeting point, a deserted warehouse on the outskirts of the city, we were met by two men. Their cold, calculating eyes assessed us with disdain. One of them, a tall, gaunt figure with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward. "Emma," he sneered, "and the loyal husband." How touching. I resisted the urge to lash out, knowing that any sign of weakness would be exploited. "We're here to negotiate," I said evenly. "There's no need for violence." The man laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Negotiate? You're in no position to negotiate. Alex owes us, and you're going to pay his debt." Emma stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "Please, just leave us alone. We'll do whatever you want. Just don't hurt us." The man's expression softened slightly, but his eyes remained cold. "It's too late for that, sweetheart. You're in this too deep at that moment." I noticed movement in the shadows. Alex emerged, his face a mask of desperation. "Let them go," he pleaded. "I'll do whatever you want, just leave them out of this." The tension in the air was palpable. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as the situation teetered on the brink of violence. The gaunt man regarded Alex with contempt. "You think you can save them? You're as much a part of this as they are." Before I could react, chaos erupted. A shot rang out, and Alex crumpled to the ground, clutching his shoulder. Emma screamed, and I drew my weapon, firing at our assailants. The warehouse echoed with the sound of gunfire as we fought for our lives. In the midst of the chaos, I saw a familiar figure emerge from the shadows, one of Alex's former partners, now seemingly on our side. He had warned us of the ambush, and his intervention turned the tide in our favor. Together, we managed to subdue our attackers, though the cost was high. Emma rushed to Alex's side, her face pale with fear. "We need to get him to a hospital," she said urgently. I nodded, my own adrenaline-fueled panic subsiding slightly. "Let's go." We bundled Alex into the car and sped away, leaving the warehouse and its bloody aftermath behind. The drive to the hospital was a blur, my mind racing with the events of the night. We had survived, but the danger was far from over. At the hospital, Alex was rushed into surgery, his condition critical but stable. Emma and I sat in the waiting room, the reality of our situation sinking in. We were entangled in a web of lies and deceit, with enemies lurking in the shadows. As dawn broke, a weary doctor approached us. "He's stable for now," she said. "But he'll need time to recover." Emma nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. As we left the hospital, I knew that our fight was far from over. The threats against us were still very real, and our only chance of survival lay in uncovering the truth and outmaneuvering our enemies. Emma's lies had brought us to the brink, but now we had no choice but to face the darkness together. In the days that followed, we began to piece together a plan. Our former adversary, now turned ally, provided us with valuable information about Alex's past and the people who were after him. It was a treacherous path, but we had no other choice. Em and I were bound by a fragile alliance, forged in the crucible of danger and betrayal. Our lives, once so comfortable and predictable, had been irrevocably altered. The road ahead was fraught with peril, but for the first time in a long while we faced it together, determined to survive and rebuild our shattered lives. As we prepared for the next stage of our plan, I couldn't help but reflect on the twists and turns that had brought us to this point. The intricate dance of deceit and danger had revealed the true nature of our relationship, and while the road to redemption was long, it was one we would walk together, side by side, until the end. With Alex stabilized in the hospital, Emma and I returned to our now tense and guarded home. The days following the warehouse shootout were a blur of strategizing and paranoia. The sense of impending doom lingered, and trust had become a rare commodity. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every unfamiliar face a potential enemy. Emma was consumed with guilt and fear. She spent her days at the hospital, watching over Alex, while I focused on fortifying our defenses and gathering more intelligence. Our new ally, the former partner of Alex, revealed himself to be named Marcus. He was a man driven by his own motives, yet his insights proved invaluable. One evening, as Marcus and I were discussing the latest developments, he gave me a knowing look. "John, there's something you need to understand about Emma and Alex. Their relationship is more complicated than you think." My jaw tightened. "What do you mean?" Marcus sighed. "Emma wasn't just infatuated with Alex. She was part of his world in ways you can't imagine. She knew about the forgeries, the deals. She was involved." The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. I had suspected Emma of hiding things, but this was beyond anything I had imagined. "Why are you telling me this now?" I demanded. "Because you need to know what you're up against," Marcus replied. "These people, they don't just want Alex, they want everyone involved, and that includes Emma." I felt the ground shift beneath me. The woman I had married, the woman I thought I knew, was entangled in a web of crime and deceit. My instinct was to confront her immediately, but I knew that I had to tread carefully. Our enemies were watching, and any misstep could be fatal. The next morning, I visited Emma at the hospital. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow. "How is he?" I asked, my voice softening despite my inner turmoil. "He's stable," she replied, her gaze fixed on the floor. "The doctors say he'll recover, but it'll take time," I nodded, choosing my words carefully. "Emma, we need to talk. There's something I need to know." She looked up, a flicker of fear in her eyes. "What is it, John?" I took a deep breath. "Marcus told me everything. About your involvement with Alex's forgeries, the deals. I need to know the truth." Emma's face went pale, and she sank into the chair, her hands trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "I got caught up in it all, and I didn't know how to get out. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice betraying my hurt. "Why keep it a secret?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I was scared, John. Scared of losing you, scared of what would happen if the truth came out. I thought I could handle it, that I could protect you." The weight of her words settled over me. I wanted to be angry, to lash out at her for her betrayal, but all I felt was a profound sadness. Our lives had been built on a foundation of lies, and now it was crumbling around us. "We need to work together," I said finally. "If we're going to survive this, we need to be honest with each other. No more secrets." Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise, John, no more secrets." With Emma's confession, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. We spent hours discussing the details of her involvement, the people she had dealt with, and the threats we now faced. It was a painful process, but it brought us closer, forging a new bond out of the wreckage of our old life. Meanwhile, Marcus continued to provide us with vital information. He had his own reasons for helping us, a vendetta against his former partners who had betrayed him, but his knowledge of their operations was invaluable. Together, we formulated a plan to draw out our enemies and neutralize the threat once and for all. Our first target was a man named Victor, a key player in the network of art forgeries and the mastermind behind the threats against us. Marcus knew his routines, his hideouts, and his weaknesses. We decided to confront him directly, using the element of surprise to our advantage. The night of the confrontation, Emma and I, accompanied by Marcus, made our way to Victor's warehouse. It was a nerve-wracking journey, each of us on edge, anticipating the worst. As we approached the building, Marcus signaled for us to stop. "He's inside," Marcus whispered. "Be ready for anything." We crept inside, our footsteps silent on the concrete floor. The warehouse was dimly lit, shadows dancing in the corners. Victor was there, seated at a desk, his back to us. He didn't hear us approach until it was too late. "Victor," Marcus called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. Victor turned, his face contorting with surprise and anger. "Marcus, you traitor," he spat. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I'm here to settle a score," Marcus replied coldly. "You've caused enough trouble. It's time to end this." Victor sneered. "You think you can stop me? You're a fool, Marcus. And you," he said, turning his gaze to Emma and me. "You're in way over your heads." I stepped forward, my voice steady. "We're not here to negotiate, Victor. We're here to make sure you leave us alone." Victor laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "You think you can scare me? I've dealt with worse than you." Before I could respond, Marcus lunged forward, tackling Victor to the ground. They struggled, fists flying as Emma and I watched in shock. Finally, Marcus overpowered Victor, pinning him to the floor. "Tell your men to back off," Marcus demanded, "or this ends badly for you." Victor glared up at him, his defiance wavering. "Fine," he muttered. But this isn't over. Marcus released him, and Victor slowly got to his feet, his eyes burning with hatred. "You'll regret this," he warned. "All of you." With Victor subdued, we left the warehouse, our nerves frayed but our resolve stronger than ever. It was a small victory, but it marked the beginning of our fight to reclaim our lives. In the weeks that followed, we continued to dismantle the network of threats against us. Marcus proved to be an invaluable ally, his knowledge and cunning helping us stay one step ahead of our enemies. Emma and I, though scarred by the revelations of the past, found a new sense of purpose in our struggle. But as we moved forward, a nagging doubt lingered in my mind. Victor's warning echoed in my thoughts, a constant reminder that our fight was far from over. The danger was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. As we braced ourselves for the next phase of our battle, I couldn't help but wonder if we would ever truly be free of the darkness that had engulfed our lives. But one thing was certain: we would face it together, no matter what. Our confrontation with Victor had been a turning point, but it was clear that our troubles were far from over. His parting words haunted me, a constant reminder that our enemies were still out there, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Emma and I fortified our defenses and worked closely with Marcus, who continued to provide critical intelligence on our adversaries. As we dismantled the remnants of the network targeting us, we uncovered more about Alex's criminal past and the extent of Emma's involvement. Each revelation was a painful blow, but it also brought us closer to understanding the full scope of the danger we faced. One evening, as we were reviewing our plans, Marcus brought us new information. "I've traced the source of the letters," he said, spreading a series of documents on the table. They were sent by someone inside Alex's old network, someone with a personal vendetta against him. Emma leaned over the documents, her brow furrowed. "Who is it?" Marcus pointed to a name on the page. "Isabella. She was one of Alex's closest associates, but they had a falling out. She blames him for her downfall and wants revenge." The name was unfamiliar to me, but the implications were clear. "Where can we find her?" "She's been lying low, but I've managed to track her to a safe house on the outskirts of the city," Marcus replied. "It's heavily guarded, but we have a chance to catch her off guard if we move quickly." We prepared for the confrontation, our nerves taut with anticipation. This time we were determined to end the threat once and for all. As we approached the safe house, the tension was palpable. Marcus had arranged for backup, and we moved in with precision, taking down the guards and securing the perimeter. Inside, we found Isabella waiting for us. She was a striking woman, her demeanor cold and calculating. "So, you finally found me," she said, her voice laced with contempt. "I suppose you want answers why the letters," Emma demanded, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why target us?" Isabella's eyes narrowed. "Alex betrayed me. He left me to take the fall while he escaped with his precious art. I lost everything because of him. The letters were just the beginning. I wanted you to suffer, to feel the same fear and helplessness I felt." Her words sent a chill down my spine. This was more than a simple vendetta, it was a deeply personal grudge, and we were caught in the middle. "It's over, Isabella," I said, stepping forward. "We have you now. There's no need for more bloodshed." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think this is over? It's only just begun. There are others out there who want Alex and everyone associated with him dead. You'll never be safe." Before we could react, she lunged at Marcus, a knife glinting in her hand. He managed to deflect the blow, and in the ensuing struggle, we subdued her. As we restrained her, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was right. Our victory was hollow, a small respite in a much larger battle. With Isabella in custody, we returned to the hospital where Alex was recovering. Emma and I sat by his bedside, the weight of our recent experiences pressing down on us. Isabella is behind the letters, I told him. She's been captured, but she warned us that others are still out there. Alex's face was pale, his eyes haunted. She won't stop until she's destroyed everything. And she's not the only one. My past. It's a Pandora's box. Once opened, it can't be closed. Emma squeezed his hand, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. We won't give up. We'll fight this together. As we left the hospital, I couldn't help but feel a sense of impending doom. The more we uncovered, the deeper the abyss seemed to grow. Our enemies were numerous and relentless, driven by motives we could barely comprehend. Over the next few weeks, we focused on fortifying our defenses and gathering more intelligence. Marcus continued to be an invaluable ally, his knowledge and connections helping us stay one step ahead of our enemies. But the constant vigilance took its toll on us all. One night, as Emma and I were reviewing the latest reports, she turned to me, her eyes filled with worry. John, what if we never find a way out of this? What if we're always looking over our shoulders, waiting for the next attack? I took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We will find a way. We've come this far, and we won't give up now. We'll find a way to end this, once and for all. Our resolve was tested when we received word that another key player in Alex's old network was planning to strike. This time, the target was not just us, but also our extended family. The threat had expanded, and the stakes were higher than ever. We quickly mobilized, contacting our relatives and arranging for their protection. It was a logistical nightmare, but we managed to ensure their safety. Meanwhile, Marcus tracked down the new threat, a man named Ricardo, known for his ruthlessness and cunning. Ricardo had a reputation for being elusive, but with Marcus's help, we managed to locate his hideout. As we prepared for the confrontation, I felt a mixture of determination and dread. This was another step in a seemingly endless battle, but we had no choice but to face it head-on. The confrontation with Ricardo was brutal. His hideout was heavily fortified, and his men were well-trained and ruthless. We fought our way through, determined to end the threat once and for all. The firefight was intense, and the cost was high. Marcus was injured, but we managed to capture Ricardo and dismantle his operation. As we stood in the aftermath, surrounded by the wreckage of the battle, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had survived another attack, but at what cost? Our lives had been turned upside down, and the future was uncertain. With Ricardo in custody, we returned to our fortified home, exhausted but resolute. The fight was far from over, but we had gained a small victory. Each confrontation brought us closer to uncovering the full scope of the network that threatened us. In the quiet moments when the adrenaline had faded, Emma and I would sit together, reflecting on the journey we had undertaken. Our lives had been forever changed by the secrets and lies that had come to light. But through it all, we had found a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper connection. As we prepared for the next phase of our battle, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Our enemies were still out there, and the threat was ever present. But one thing was certain: we would face it together, stronger and more determined than ever. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but we had learned to navigate the shadows, to find strength in each other. And as long as we stood together, there was hope. We had survived the abyss, and now we would fight to reclaim our lives, no matter the cost. The aftermath of the confrontation with Ricardo left us with a temporary sense of relief, but the ever-present tension in our lives remained. Emma and I tried to resume a semblance of normalcy, but it was difficult. Every knock on the door, every unexpected phone call felt like a potential threat. Marcus was recovering from his injuries, and though he continued to assist us, his condition was a stark reminder of the dangers we faced. One evening, as I was working late in my study, I received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in years: David, an old friend and former business partner who had moved abroad. His voice was urgent and filled with concern. "John, I heard about the trouble you're in," he said without preamble. "I might have some information that could help." I was taken aback. "David, it's been years. "How did you hear about this? News travels fast in our circles," he replied. "Meet me tomorrow at the old cafe we used to frequent. I'll explain everything." The next day, I made my way to the cafe, my mind racing with questions. David had always been resourceful, and if he had information, it could be a game changer. As I entered the cafe, I spotted him at a corner table. He looked older, but his eyes still held the same sharpness I remembered. "John," he greeted me with a firm handshake. "It's been too long," it has, I agreed, sitting down. "What's this about?" David leaned in, his expression serious. "I've been keeping tabs on the criminal underworld, and I've come across some troubling information. The people you're dealing with, they're part of a much larger organization. It's not just about Alex's past, there's a conspiracy at play, and you're caught in the middle of it." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of conspiracy?" "There's a group called the Circle," David explained. "They deal in high-stakes art theft, forgeries, and other illicit activities. Alex was involved with them, and now they see you as a threat. They want to eliminate anyone who could expose them." The pieces started to fall into place. The relentless attacks, the threats, Isabella, Ricardo, it all pointed to something much larger than I had imagined. "How do we stop them?" I asked. David hesitated. "It's not going to be easy. The Circle is powerful, and they have connections everywhere, but I have a contact inside who might be willing to help. It's risky, but it could be our best chance." I agreed to meet his contact, a man named Luis, who was an art dealer with deep ties to the Circle. David arranged a meeting at a discreet location, and I prepared myself for what could be another dangerous encounter. Emma was understandably nervous about the plan. "Are you sure about this, John? What if it's a trap? We don't have many options," I replied. "David wouldn't lead me into a trap. We need this information if we're going to survive." The meeting with Luis was tense. He was a slick, well-dressed man with an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. "David speaks highly of you," he said, eyeing me critically. "But trust is hard to come by in my world." "I'm not asking for trust," I replied. "Just information. Help us take down the Circle, and you'll be doing us all a favor." Luis considered this. "The Circle is run by a man named Victor Garcia. He's ruthless and has his hands in everything from art theft to political corruption. Taking him down won't be easy, but I can give you the information you need." He handed me a file filled with documents, names, addresses, financial records. It was a treasure trove of information. "This is a start," he said, "but be careful. Garcia won't go down without a fight." With Luis's information in hand, Emma, Marcus, and I began to formulate a plan. We needed to strike at the heart of the Circle, and that meant going after Victor Garcia himself. It was a risky move, but it was our best chance to end this nightmare once and for all. As we delved deeper into the documents, we uncovered a web of corruption and deceit that reached into the highest levels of society. Politicians, businessmen, law enforcement, the Circle had its hooks in all of them. It was daunting, but we were determined. One night, as we were finalizing our plan, there was a sudden commotion outside. Marcus and I rushed to the window and saw a group of armed men approaching the house. "They're here," Marcus said grimly. We barely had time to react before the door was kicked in and chaos erupted. Shots were fired, and we fought back with everything we had. Emma was terrified, but she held her ground, proving once again that she was stronger than she appeared. In the midst of the battle, I saw a familiar face, Victor himself, leading the attack. He was more ruthless than I had imagined, and it was clear he intended to end this once and for all. Marcus and I managed to fend off the attackers, but not without sustaining injuries. Victor escaped in the chaos, leaving us battered but alive. As we regrouped, it was clear that we were running out of time. The Circle was closing in, and our only hope was to take the fight to them. We had the information, we had the resolve, and now we needed to act. With Luis's help, we pinpointed Victor's location, a heavily guarded mansion on the outskirts of the city. It was a fortress, but we were determined to breach it. We gathered our remaining allies, including David, who had proven himself to be a true friend. The night of the assault, we moved with precision and determination. We infiltrated the mansion, taking down guards and making our way to Victor's inner sanctum. The final confrontation was brutal, but we were relentless. Victor fought back with all his might, but in the end we prevailed. As Victor lay defeated, I stood over him, my heart pounding. "It's over," I said, my voice steady. "The circle is finished," Victor laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "You think this ends with me? The circle is bigger than you can imagine. Others will rise to take my place. Then we'll deal with them," I replied. "One by one, if we have to." With Victor's capture, the immediate threat was neutralized, but we knew the battle was far from over. The circle was a hydra, and cutting off one head would only result in another taking its place. But for now, we had won a significant victory. As we emerged from the mansion, battered but triumphant, I felt a sense of closure. Emma and I had faced the darkness together and had come out stronger. Our lives would never be the same, but we had found a new purpose in our struggle. In the days that followed, we worked tirelessly to dismantle the remnants of the circle. With the information we had gathered, we exposed the corruption and brought many of its members to justice. It was a long and arduous process, but we were relentless. Through it all, Emma and I rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of trust and honesty. The lies and deceit that had once torn us apart were replaced by a bond forged in the crucible of adversity. We had faced the abyss and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As we looked toward the future, I knew that we would continue to fight for justice and protect our family. The shadows of the past would always linger, but we had found the strength to stand together and confront them. And as long as we had each other, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. With Victor Garcia behind bars and much of the circle's network exposed, life began to slowly return to a semblance of normalcy. The sense of constant danger receded, but the scars of our ordeal remained. Emma and I tried to rebuild our lives, focusing on each other and the future we still hoped to have. But shadows of the past have a way of lingering, and we knew our fight was far from over. The circle had been vast and intricate, and while we had struck a significant blow, there were still remnants that posed a threat. One evening, as Emma and I sat together in the living room, we received a call from Marcus. He had been following a lead on a small cell of the circle that had gone underground. "John, I think we need to meet," he said, his tone serious. "I found something you need to see." We met Marcus at a secure location, a safe house we had set up during our conflict. He handed me a file, his expression grim. "This is a list of high-profile figures still associated with the circle. They've been laying low, but they're starting to regroup." I scanned the list, recognizing several names: politicians, business magnates, even some law enforcement officials. "So what's our next move?" I asked, feeling a familiar sense of urgency. "We need to take them down before they can regain their strength," Marcus replied. "We've made too much progress to let them rebuild," Emma nodded, her resolve unwavering. "We can't let them come back. We have to finish what we started." Our plan was to target these individuals one by one, using the information we had gathered to expose their involvement and dismantle their operations. It was a daunting task, but we were determined. Our first target was a high-ranking politician, Senator Caldwell, who had been instrumental in providing cover for the circle's activities. Using the documents Luis had given us, we had enough evidence to expose his corruption. We orchestrated a sting operation, working with a few trusted allies in law enforcement who had remained untainted by the circle's influence. The operation was a success. Caldwell was arrested, and the ensuing scandal rocked the political world. It sent a clear message to the remaining members of the circle we were coming for them. As we continued our efforts, we faced numerous challenges. The deeper we dug, the more dangerous our enemies became. They were desperate, and desperation breeds recklessness. There were attempts on our lives, but we managed to stay one step ahead. One night, as we were planning our next move, Marcus received a call from one of his contacts. The news was dire: a key witness who could have provided crucial testimony against several high-profile targets had been found dead. It was a brutal reminder of the lengths our enemies would go to protect themselves. "This is getting more dangerous by the day," Emma said, her voice filled with worry. "We can't let them silence any more witnesses." We intensified our efforts, focusing on gathering enough evidence to bring the remaining members of the circle to justice. It was a race against time, and every move we made was fraught with risk. As we closed in on our next target, a wealthy financier named Gregory Lang, we discovered he was planning to flee the country. We had to act quickly to prevent him from escaping. Using our contacts and resources, we orchestrated a daring operation to intercept him at a private airstrip. The night of the operation, we moved with precision. Marcus and I led the team, while Emma coordinated from a secure location. As Lang's private jet prepared for takeoff, we moved in, catching him off guard. There was a brief, intense standoff, but we managed to apprehend him. With Lang in custody, we gained access to a trove of financial records that detailed the circle's illicit activities. It was a significant breakthrough, providing us with the evidence we needed to bring down several more key players. As we celebrated our success, Marcus pulled me aside. "John, there's something else you need to know. I've been tracking another lead, someone from your past. Someone who's resurfaced." My heart sank. "Who?" Peter, Marcus said quietly. "Your former business partner. He's been linked to the circle." The name hit me like a blow. Peter and I had been close, but we had parted ways years ago under less than amicable circumstances. The thought that he could be involved with the circle was both shocking and deeply unsettling. "I thought he disappeared," I said, struggling to process the information. "He did," Marcus replied. "But it seems he's resurfaced, and he's been working with the circle. We need to find him." The news about Peter added a new layer of complexity to our mission. If he was involved with the circle, it meant we were facing an enemy who knew me well, perhaps too well. It was a disturbing prospect, but one we couldn't ignore. We began tracking Peter's movements, using the information Marcus had gathered. It led us to a remote location outside the city, where he was reportedly hiding. As we prepared to confront him, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. This was personal, and it made the stakes even higher. When we finally located Peter, it was clear he had been expecting us. He greeted me with a cold smile, his eyes devoid of the warmth I once remembered. "John, it's been a long time," he said. "Too long," I replied, my voice steady. "Why, Peter? Why get involved with the circle?" He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You don't understand, John. The circle offered me something I couldn't refuse. Power, influence, everything I lost after our fallout. At what cost, I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "At whatever cost necessary," he replied, his expression hardening. "You were always too naive, John. You never saw the bigger picture." The confrontation escalated quickly. Peter had surrounded himself with loyal followers, and it became clear that he wasn't going to come quietly. A firefight broke out, and we fought with everything we had. The battle was fierce, but we managed to overpower Peter and his men. As I stood over Peter, the weight of our shared past bore down on me. "It didn't have to be this way," I said quietly. "It was always going to be this way," he replied, his voice filled with resignation. "You just didn't see it." With Peter in custody, we had dismantled another significant piece of the circle's network. It was a hard-won victory, but it came with a heavy emotional toll. The betrayal of a former friend cut deep, reminding me of the cost of our fight. In the aftermath, we continued to press forward, using the momentum we had gained to target the remaining members of the circle. Each victory brought us closer to our goal, but it also brought new challenges and dangers. Through it all, Emma remained my rock. Her unwavering support and strength kept me grounded, even as the world around us seemed to crumble. We had faced so much together, and it had forged an unbreakable bond between us. As we looked toward the future, we knew the fight was far from over. The circle was still out there, and its remnants would continue to pose a threat, but we were more determined than ever to see it through to the end. We had come too far, endured too much, to turn back now, and as long as we stood together, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. The shadows of the past would always linger, but we had found the strength to confront them and reclaim our lives. The path ahead was uncertain, but we faced it with courage and determination. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, ready to fight for the future we had fought so hard to secure. Our victory over Peter had been a significant blow to the circle, but it also served as a stark reminder of the personal costs of our crusade. The betrayal by a former friend weighed heavily on me, and the relentless battle against a shadowy organization continued to take its toll on all of us. Emma and I found solace in each other, our bond growing stronger with every challenge we faced. Marcus, despite his injuries, remained a steadfast ally, his resilience and resourcefulness proving invaluable. But as we pressed on, it became clear that our enemies were becoming more desperate and dangerous. One evening, while we were strategizing our next move, Marcus received a disturbing message from an anonymous source. The message contained a video showing a masked figure threatening to harm our loved ones if we continued our pursuit. The implication was clear: the circle was willing to target our families to stop us. The threat struck fear into our hearts. We had taken every precaution to protect our families, but the video was a chilling reminder that no one was truly safe. Emma's face was pale, her eyes filled with worry. "John, we have to stop this. We can't put our families at risk, I know," I replied, my voice firm. "But we can't back down now. We're too close to ending this. We need to find out who sent this message and take them down." Using the clues in the video, Marcus traced the source to a high-tech facility on the outskirts of the city. It was a fortified compound, and infiltrating it would be no easy task. But we had no choice. The safety of our families depended on it. We assembled our team, including David, who had proven himself a loyal and capable ally. As we prepared for the mission, the weight of our responsibilities pressed heavily on us. Failure was not an option. The night of the operation, we moved with precision and determination. The facility was heavily guarded, but we used our skills and resources to bypass the security systems and gain entry. Inside, we encountered fierce resistance, but we fought our way through, driven by the need to protect our loved ones. As we navigated the maze-like corridors, we discovered a control room filled with monitors and communication equipment. In the center of the room stood the masked figure from the video. He removed his mask, revealing a familiar face, one of Victor Garcia's top lieutenants, a man named Anton. "You've come a long way," John Anton said, his voice dripping with disdain. "But you're too late. The circle will rise again, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. We'll see about that," I replied, my anger boiling over. "This ends now." A brutal fight ensued, with Anton and his men fighting desperately to protect their stronghold. But we were relentless, our determination fueled by the need to end this threat once and for all. In the end, we subdued Anton and his remaining guards, securing the facility. With Anton in custody, we searched the facility for more information. What we found was shocking detailed plans for attacks on key locations, targeting our families and other allies. It was a sobering reminder of the lengths the circle would go to achieve their goals. As we gathered the evidence, Emma contacted our families, ensuring their immediate relocation to safer locations. It was a difficult decision, but their safety was our top priority. The relocation process was fraught with tension, but we managed to move them to secure, undisclosed locations. With our families safe, we turned our attention to the next phase of our mission. The information we had gathered at the facility pointed to another key figure in the circle, a powerful businessman named Lorenzo Rossi. He was known for his ruthless tactics and extensive network of contacts, making him a formidable adversary. Rossi's operations were spread across multiple countries, making it difficult to pin him down. But with Marcus's intelligence and David's connections, we began to map out his network and identify potential vulnerabilities. Our first target was one of Rossi's key operations, a shipping company that served as a front for smuggling illegal goods. We coordinated a multi-pronged attack, using our combined skills to infiltrate the company's headquarters and gather crucial evidence. The operation was a success, but it came at a high cost. During the raid, we encountered heavy resistance, and Marcus was gravely injured. As we evacuated the facility, Emma and I did everything we could to stabilize him, but his condition was critical. We rushed Marcus to a secure location where a trusted doctor could tend to his injuries. As we waited for news, the gravity of our situation hit me hard. We were fighting a dangerous enemy, and the stakes were higher than ever. The cost of justice was becoming increasingly steep. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression was grim. He's stable for now, but it's touch and go. He's a fighter, but he needs time to recover. Emma and I sat by Marcus's bedside, the weight of our journey pressing down on us. He's given so much for this fight, Emma said quietly, tears in her eyes. We can't lose him, John, we won't, I replied, my voice filled with determination. We're going to finish this, for Marcus and everyone else who's been hurt by the circle. As Marcus began his slow recovery, we continued our efforts to dismantle Rossi's operations. The information we had gathered from the shipping company provided valuable leads, and we targeted several more of his key assets. Each success brought us closer to our goal, but it also made Rossi more desperate and dangerous. One evening, as we were reviewing our latest intelligence, David approached us with urgent news. I found something, he said, his voice tense. Rossi is planning a major attack, something that could have devastating consequences. What kind of attack, I asked, my heart racing. He's targeting a high-profile event, a charity gala attended by influential figures, David explained. If he succeeds, it could cause mass casualties and chaos. We knew we had to act quickly to prevent the attack. With the information David had provided, we coordinated with our trusted allies in law enforcement, ensuring that security at the event was heightened and that key figures were protected. On the night of the gala, Emma and I went undercover, blending in with the crowd while our team monitored the situation from a secure location. The tension was palpable as we scanned the room, looking for any signs of trouble. As the evening progressed, we spotted several suspicious individuals moving through the crowd. Using discreet communication, we alerted our team and coordinated their capture. It was a delicate operation, but we managed to apprehend the would-be attackers without causing panic. In the aftermath, we discovered that Rossi had orchestrated the attack as a last-ditch effort to regain control and send a message. His plan had failed, and his network was in disarray. With the threat neutralized, we intensified our efforts to track him down. The final confrontation with Rossi was inevitable. Using the intelligence we had gathered, we pinpointed his location, a secluded villa in a remote part of the country. We prepared for the assault, knowing that this would be the culmination of our long and arduous journey. The night of the assault, we moved with precision and determination. The villa was heavily guarded, but we used our skills and resources to breach the defenses and gain entry. Inside, we encountered fierce resistance, but we fought with everything we had. As we made our way through the villa, we found Rossi in a lavishly decorated room, surrounded by his remaining loyalists. He greeted us with a cold smile, his arrogance undiminished. "You've come a long way, John," he said. "But this is where it ends." "It does end here," I replied, my voice filled with resolve. "But not the way you think." A brutal fight ensued, with Rossi and his men fighting desperately to protect their leader. But we were relentless, our determination fueled by the need to bring justice to those who had suffered at the Circle's hands. In the end, we subdued Rossi and his remaining guards, securing the villa. With Rossi in custody, we had dismantled the last significant piece of the Circle's network. It was a hard-won victory, but it came with a profound sense of relief. The immediate threat was over, and we could finally begin to rebuild our lives. As we stood in the aftermath of the battle, I looked at Emma, her face reflecting the same mixture of exhaustion and triumph that I felt. "We did it," I said quietly. "We did," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "But it's not over. There's still so much to do in the days that followed. We worked tirelessly to bring the remaining members of the Circle to justice. With Rossi's capture and the evidence we had gathered, we were able to expose the full extent of the organization's corruption and bring many of its members to trial. Through it all, Marcus continued to recover, his resilience and determination an inspiration to us all. As he regained his strength, he rejoined our efforts, his expertise and insight proving invaluable. As we looked toward the future, we knew that our fight had only just begun. The Circle had been a formidable enemy, but the battle for justice and integrity was ongoing. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. The cost of justice had been high, but it was a price we were willing to pay. And as long as we stood together, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. The shadows of the past would always linger, but we had found the strength to confront them and reclaim our lives. With Lorenzo Rossi in custody and the Circle's network dismantled, the immediate threat to our families and allies had subsided. The victory felt monumental, but it was also a sobering reminder of the cost we had paid to get here. The path ahead, though filled with hope, was fraught with the echoes of our past actions and their repercussions. Marcus's recovery was slow but steady. The doctor's prognosis was cautiously optimistic, and every day Marcus regained a little more strength. Emma and I spent a lot of time by his side, reflecting on our journey and the bonds we had forged through our shared struggle. As we moved forward, we faced the daunting task of rebuilding our lives and ensuring that the remnants of the Circle could never rise again. Our work was far from over, and we knew that complacency was not an option. Emma and I took on a more public role, working with law enforcement and government agencies to establish new protocols and safeguards against the kind of corruption and infiltration that the Circle had exploited. Our efforts focused on transparency, accountability, and the relentless pursuit of justice. One day, as we were preparing for a press conference to discuss our progress, we received an unexpected visitor. It was Luis, the former member of the Circle who had become an invaluable ally. He had been instrumental in providing the information that led to our victory, and now he had more to share. "John," Luis greeted us, his expression serious. "I have something you need to see." He handed me a thick folder filled with documents. As I scanned the pages, I felt a familiar chill run down my spine. The documents detailed a new conspiracy, one that involved some of the same high-profile figures we had already taken down. It seemed that remnants of the Circle were trying to regroup under a different guise. "This can't be happening," Emma said, her voice laced with frustration. "We just dismantled their network. They're like a hydra," Luis replied. "Cut off one head, and another grows in its place. But this time, we're ahead of them." The documents included detailed plans for a series of coordinated attacks and financial schemes designed to destabilize the progress we had made. The plans were intricate, indicating that the remnants of the Circle were more desperate and dangerous than ever. "We need to act fast," Marcus said, joining us in the room, his resolve undiminished despite his physical frailty. "If we can expose this before they have a chance to act, we can cut them off at the knees." Our team regrouped, utilizing all the resources and connections we had built over the past months. We reached out to our allies in law enforcement, the media, and the political sphere, rallying support for a new, decisive offensive against this emerging threat. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We worked tirelessly, following leads, gathering evidence, and coordinating with our allies to preempt the Circle's plans. It was a race against time, but we were driven by the need to protect the fragile peace we had fought so hard to achieve. One night, as we were poring over the latest intelligence, Emma turned to me, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't just react to their moves, John. We need to be proactive. We need to set a trap." She was right. We needed to lure the remnants of the Circle into a situation where they would reveal themselves. Using the information Luis had provided, we devised a plan to stage a high-profile event that would draw them out. The event was a charity gala, similar to the one Rossi had targeted. This time, however, we were in control. Every detail was meticulously planned, and security was tighter than ever. Our goal was to identify and apprehend any operatives who attempted to disrupt the event. The night of the gala, Emma and I played our roles perfectly, mingling with the guests and keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings. Our team was strategically positioned, ready to act at a moment's notice. As the evening progressed, we observed several suspicious individuals entering the venue. Using discreet signals, we alerted our team, who moved in to monitor their activities closely. It wasn't long before the operatives made their move, attempting to plant devices and incite chaos. But we were ready. In a coordinated strike, our team apprehended the operatives, neutralizing the threat before it could materialize. The event proceeded without incident, and the next day's headlines praised our vigilance and quick action. With the operatives in custody, we extracted crucial information about the new leadership of the circle. It led us to a man named Victor Hale, a former associate of Rossi who had stepped into the power vacuum left by our earlier victories. Hale was cunning and ruthless, and his network was deeply entrenched. But we had momentum on our side. Using the intelligence we had gathered, we launched a series of operations to dismantle Hale's network, targeting his financial assets, communication channels, and key operatives. Each success brought us closer to Hale, but it also made him more desperate. He began to make mistakes, exposing himself and his operations in ways that we could exploit. Our final confrontation with Hale took place in an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of the city. The complex was a labyrinth of rusted machinery and decaying structures, the perfect setting for a final showdown. We moved in with precision, using the element of surprise to our advantage. Hale's guards were well trained, but they were no match for our determination and resolve. As we fought our way through the complex, we finally cornered Hale in a dimly lit control room. He greeted us with a sneer, his arrogance undiminished. "You think you've won," he spat. "You're just delaying the inevitable." "This ends now," Hale, I replied, my voice steady. "Your network is finished. Surrender." He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You're naive, John." "There will always be another to take my place, not this time," Emma said, stepping forward. "We've cut off every head of this hydra. There's nowhere left for you to run." The fight that ensued was brutal, but we emerged victorious. Hale was taken into custody, his network dismantled, and his plans foiled. It was the culmination of our long and arduous journey, a hard-won victory that brought a sense of closure and relief. In the aftermath, we worked tirelessly to ensure that the circle could never rise again. We established new safeguards, strengthened our alliances, and continued our pursuit of justice. The road to redemption was long, but we were committed to seeing it through. As we looked toward the future, Emma and I knew that our lives would never be the same. The battles we had fought and the sacrifices we had made had changed us, forging an unbreakable bond between us and our allies. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. The shadows of the past would always linger, but we had found the strength to confront them and reclaim our lives. The fight for justice was ongoing, but we faced it with courage and determination. And no matter what the future held, we knew that as long as we stood together, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. The cost of justice had been high, but it was a price we were willing to pay for the future we had fought so hard to secure. With Victor Hale's capture and the circle dismantled, a sense of relief washed over us. But the journey to reclaim our lives was far from over. The victory had come at a high cost, and the scars of our struggle were still fresh. As we moved forward, we focused on rebuilding and ensuring that the peace we had fought so hard to achieve would endure. Emma and I took time to reconnect with our families, who had been relocated to ensure their safety. The reunion was emotional, filled with tears and heartfelt embraces. Our children, who had been kept in the dark about much of our ordeal, sensed the weight of the past months and clung to us with a new intensity. We knew that trust had to be rebuilt, both within our family and with our allies. We held meetings with our closest confidants, including Marcus, Luis, and David, to discuss our next steps. The consensus was clear: we needed to ensure that the systems that allowed the circle to flourish were dismantled, and that safeguards were put in place to prevent such corruption from taking root again. One of our first initiatives was to establish a foundation dedicated to transparency and accountability in business and government. We used the resources we had acquired from dismantling the circle to fund the foundation, ensuring that it had the means to make a real impact. The foundation's work involved collaborating with various organizations, conducting audits, and advocating for legislative changes to close the loopholes that had been exploited by the circle. Emma took a leading role in these efforts, her passion and determination inspiring others to join our cause. As we immersed ourselves in this new mission, I couldn't help but reflect on how much we had changed. The challenges we had faced had transformed us, forging us into stronger, more resilient individuals. Our bond had deepened, and our purpose had become clearer than ever. One evening, as we were discussing the foundation's progress, Marcus approached us with a proposal. "We need to go public with our story," he said. "People need to know what happened, and they need to see that justice can prevail." Emma and I exchanged a glance. The idea of sharing our story with the world was daunting, but Marcus was right. By going public, we could inspire others and encourage them to stand up against corruption and injustice. We decided to hold a press conference, inviting journalists and key figures from the political and business worlds. As we prepared our statements, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. This was a crucial step in our journey, one that would expose us to scrutiny, but also offer an opportunity to effect real change. The day of the press conference arrived, and the room was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation. Emma and I took the stage, flanked by Marcus, Luis, and David. As the cameras flashed and the reporters prepared their questions, I took a deep breath and began to speak. "We stand before you today to share our story," I began, my voice steady. "A story of betrayal, corruption, and ultimately, justice. Over the past months, we have fought against a shadowy organization known as the Circle, whose tentacles reached into the highest levels of business and government." Emma continued, her voice filled with conviction. "We have faced danger, made sacrifices, and endured immense personal loss. But through it all, we have remained committed to the pursuit of justice. Today, we are here to ensure that the systems that allowed the Circle to thrive are dismantled, and that transparency and accountability become the cornerstones of our society." As we detailed our journey, the room fell silent, the weight of our words sinking in. We shared the challenges we had faced, the victories we had achieved, and the ongoing work of our foundation. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many expressing their support and commitment to our cause. In the days that followed, our story dominated the headlines, sparking a wave of public interest and debate. The foundation received an influx of donations and volunteers, eager to join our fight against corruption. It was a powerful reminder that when people come together for a common cause, real change is possible. As we settled into this new chapter of our lives, Emma and I took time to reflect on how far we had come. The battle against the Circle had tested us in ways we could never have imagined, but it had also brought us closer together and strengthened our resolve. We made a conscious effort to focus on our family, ensuring that our children felt loved and secure. We planned family outings, spent quality time together, and created new traditions to replace the shadows of the past with memories of joy and togetherness. Our allies, too, became an integral part of our extended family. Marcus, Luis, and David were frequent visitors, and we often gathered to share meals, discuss our progress, and enjoy each other's company. The bonds we had forged in the heat of battle had become unbreakable, and we knew that we could face any future challenges together. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our backyard, Emma turned to me, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "We've been through so much, John, but I feel like we're finally on the right path," I nodded, taking her hand in mine. "We are. And no matter what comes next, we'll face it together." The road to redemption was long, but we had found our way. The battle against the Circle had defined us, but it had also given us a new purpose and a deeper appreciation for the strength of our bonds. We had reclaimed our lives, and with each passing day, we continued to build a future rooted in justice, integrity, and love. As we looked toward the horizon, we knew that there would always be challenges to overcome. But we faced them with courage and determination, knowing that as long as we stood together, there was nothing we couldn't achieve. The shadows of the past had been dispelled, and we were ready to embrace the light of a new beginning.